Paris Perez from Worcester Warriors, and you're watching the Women's Rugby Show.
Hello, and welcome back to the Women's Rugby Show. I'm Sam Barth, and I'm here today with a little bit of a end of 2021 video, kind of summarising what's happened and giving out some Women's Rugby Show end of year awards. Before we get into this, make sure you like this video, subscribe to us on YouTube, and check us out across all social medias as well. We don't know that? Well, let's get into this end of 2021 video. I mentioned in our little Christmas clip that it's been a brilliant year for women's rugby across the board, for the Red Rose, for the Premier 15s, for Scottish rugby qualifying for the World Cup. Less so but for Wales and Ireland with all the disputes that's been going on. It's been well publicised, and we don't really need to get into that now in a celebration for the end of the year. It's also been a brilliant year for us as a Women's Rugby Show covering the game. Obviously, I took over the channel back in January from Adam, and I've kind of felt like we've pushed it on a long way since then. Been to all of England's home games this year. We've been to Wales twice. We've been to the Premier 15s final, the Premier 15s semi-final. We've gone around the grounds. We've helped kind of grow the game. We've spoken to so many players, and there's been so many moments for me that I've kind of made this year really special in terms of covering the women's rugby game, and it's something that I hope we carry on into 2022, not just for the channel but also for the growth of the women's game as well, because I feel it's going to be a massive year 2022. Obviously a World Cup year. Red Roses are going into 2022 unbeaten in 19 games now, a really impressive run, and I think they can carry that on into the Six Nations, into the World Cup, and who knows for how much longer into there. But before we get into 2022, 2021 has to be rounded off with 3 awards from the Women's Rugby Show. We put this out to our followers yesterday on Instagram to kind of nominate a few people for 3 different categories. So we got the Breakthrough Player of the Year category, the Moment of the Year, and obviously the Player of the Year. And how this is going to work, I'm kind of pick my own from some of the nominations, and we also pick the viewers award for each of them just based on purely how many nominations they've got. So my person might be a little bit different to who the viewers vote for. So let's get into that and see who's won our 3 awards this year. So like I said, we kind of opened this up to our Instagram followers yesterday on our Instagram story to give us a few kind of nominations for each of these awards. So forgive me for glancing down. We've got a really long list for each of the 3 awards. So kind of just run through some of the names that were nominated for, first of all, the Breakthrough Player before we pick the viewers winner and also my winner. We've got Sam Monaghan, who obviously made it at Wales debut this year, gone from playing club rugby to playing Wasps rugby to playing being capped for a national side, all in such a short space of time. Georgina Tasker from Loughborough Lightning stepping into Emily Scarrett's shoes, really important one. I think I'm surprised that it only got a few nominations. Helena Rowland, Ella Weiras, Sophie Tandy, Fee McIntosh, Emily Robinson, all nominated. Ella Loverbond from Bristol, Lucy Packer from Quinns, Ebony Jeffries, Charlotte Wright-Haley from Worcester Warriors had a brilliant season. Lauren Brooks winning the Premier 15s with Quinns, and also Scarlett Fielding from Sale, and Heather Cowell obviously made her England debut this year. And a few of those players have been nominated across both Breakthrough Player of the Year and Player of the Year, but kind of the top 3 who were mentioned, got the most nominations, were Simi Pam from Bristol Bears. Obviously she's done so much, not just on the pitch, off the pitch this year, kind of being who she stands for, being herself and being a great pioneer for the game. And I think that's really important, not just on the pitch, off the pitch, and that's one of the reasons why she's got so many nominations. Also Sadia Kabaya making her England debut, moving from Wasps to Loughborough as well. Premier 15 semi-final last year with Wasps, a brilliant season there, and she's also just taken that into this year, into her Loughborough season and into her first 2 caps for England. She's been outstanding. But the one who got the most nominations in our viewers' Breakthrough Player of the Year is another person who made her England debut in this autumn series, and that's Maud Muir from Wasps. She's won her 4 caps already. She's looked so comfortable already in that England shirt, made her first start against the USA. But something that stood out for me in her kind of debut for England was her first scrum in that first game against New Zealand. She won a scrum penalty, and that kind of set her tone for her England career and for her rugby career. So Maud Muir is our viewers from the Women's Rugby Show Breakthrough Player of the Year. But my Breakthrough Player of the Year has to go to Simi Pam. She's stood out so much on and off the pitch. She's been brilliant on it, made in her Barbars debut, scoring a try, and I wish her a speedy recovery as she recovers from her knee injury. I hope we see her back before the end of the season, shining on that pitch for Bristol Bears. But in the meantime, she's going to shine off it. She's going to do so much for the women's game. She's such a valuable inspiration for those younger players coming through and kind of wanting to break through themselves. So Simi Pam is my Breakthrough Player of the Year. Moving on to moment of the year, and again there were so many nominations for this one, and there's kind of a standout winner, but to reel through some of the ones that obviously aren't going to win: Chiefs beating Sarries, Chiefs beating Quins, a couple of nominations for how the Chiefs kind of performed this season and at the end of last season. Scotland qualifying for the Rugby World Cup with that Chloe Rollie try and Sarah Law conversion, the Barbars game and kind of how that all happened with it being pushed forward after the men's cancellation. The Red Roses on the BBC has also got a lot of nominations for kind of expanding how the game is portrayed in the British media at the moment. Obviously having all those games on BBC Two was really important for the growth of the game, and also having the Barbars game there as well. And now the Premier 15s is on that BBC iPlayer spot. And Gloucester beating Chiefs just before Christmas in a brilliant game. Emma Singh's charge down kind of helping Gloucester win that game. Abby Dowell's brilliant try against New Zealand. Quins winning the Premier 15 is obviously a massive moment through this year. Kind of important for the game to have a new winner of the Premier 15s, and Quins are really deserving of that. Can they go all the way this year? Let us know in the comments. And the I'm Enough movement kind of growing and expanding. Bristol women's beating Quins, that really important win at the start of the season to keep Bristol's unbeaten run going. Obviously they lost that against Saracens. A moment from that being nominated as well, Alicia Butcher's pass from that game. Sale Sharks' first win got nominated from Omega Photography. He was there obviously for that game, so it's kind of stuck in his mind. It's kind of stuck in a lot of people's mind, that one. And Sale have just been growing since then. And also the Red Roses training session with the South Africa women's side, with all the dancing, the celebration, the kind of the unity between those two sides was brilliant to see for a lot of people, and that got a few nominations as well. But the viewers' choice for the moment of the year was the Red Roses' kind of record-breaking victories against the Black Ferns. Those two victories touch kind of vital victories for the Red Roses going forward into next year, but also how dominant and efficient they were in their try scoring, and also keeping out the world champions twice in a row. I know they hadn't played for so long, but they've kept them out twice in a row, but with record score lines and kind of inflicting record defeats on the Black Ferns. It might come back to bite them in 2022, who knows, but I'm not sure it will. I'm going to stick my neck out on the line there. I'm not sure it will. I think it's going to be too much for the Black Ferns, but obviously that's going into 2022 now. But the celebration is for the Red Roses beating the Black Ferns twice in 2022 is our viewers' moment of the year for this one. And kind of my moment of the year is something a little bit different. It's having fans back. It's something I got pointed out by Mel from Saracens in the Instagram replies, who obviously notices it because she's there on every match day behind the scenes, even when there wasn't crowds like I was. And it was so much noticeable when crowds got back how the players kind of had a boost. They had the fans watching them, young kids cheering them on, and they feel like they're inspiring the next generation. And it's been so important having those fans back. We saw at Northampton, where Franklin's Gardens, when England played New Zealand for the second time there, the England players did a massive lap of honour. They're probably on the pitch for about half an hour, 40 minutes after, signing autographs, taking photos, and it's really important for the game to have those moments for the players, to make memories for the people coming to watch, and those moments mean that it's going to be just pushed on to the next generations. Something else that stood out, it's not one moment of the year because it was so late on this year. Gloucester Hartbury did, so he gave a present to a young girl, give a signed team sheet, and then Mo Hunt went to meet her, dropped off some kit, and it's little things like that that's so important potentially for that young girl's career going forward. And if just something like that can inspire them, who knows, we're going to have another Gloucester Hartbury player, we're going to have another England player in the future just from these little moments. So that is my moment of the year, having crowds back, but more specifically that moment going round the Franklin's Gardens pitch and the Red Roses signing autographs, stopping for photos, and just inspiring the next generation. And finally, it is our Player of the Year, our viewers' Player of the Year, and then kind of my Player of the Year. And forgive me, there's even more nominations for this, and there were for Breakthrough Player of the Year. So forgive me while I reel off the list of nominations of people who haven't quite won it, not in the top few, but have also been nominated. So there's Ebony Jeffries from Exeter Chiefs, Marley Packer, Emily Scott, Sophie de Gerda, Anna Capeless moving to Gloucester Hartbury this year, made a massive impact there. Helena Rowland, obviously making an impact in 7s and 15s. Abby Dow being sensational for the Red Roses. Sarah Byrne coming back from injury. Alicia Butcher's shining for Wales and the Bristol Bears. Lark Davis still scoring tries for fun. Heather Cowell making her England debut, scoring tries for fun for England and Quins. Abby Ward obviously winning the Premier 15s with Quins, moving to Bristol, making a massive impact there, and still the impact with England too. Emma Singh, called up for England, not quite made a debut yet, but been sensational for Gloucester Hartpury. Kate Zachary filling in for the Chiefs when the Meads plays in the backs and the flanker. Lydia Thompson still scoring tries for England. Obviously Meg Jones shining in 7s and in 15s as well, and also Boujard from France being sensational over there all year. But we kind of got a few who stand out in those nominations. Obviously Simi Pam once again being nominated for Player of the Year. She's not going to win it. There wasn't quite as many nominations as a few of the others, but she's still massively up there. And something that stood out to me, one of the nominations, it's described that Simi doesn't even know how good she is already, which is kind of scary. It was pointed out to us. So Simi's massively up there for Player of the Year after winning my Breakthrough Player of the Year. But also up there, Zoe Harrison made the 10 shirt her own for England. She's shone for Saracens, been really important for them being up there at the end of last season, also at the start of this season as well. And also been massively impressive for England off the boot and in kind of open play. Simon Middleton pointed out she's the best kicker of the ball in world rugby at the moment, and it's hard to argue that. Poppy Cleal, one of the nominations for Player of the Year, World Player of the Year, also been sensational. You can't argue that. She was Six Nations Player of the Year. She's been immense across 2021. But the winner, voted for by our viewers, is Zoe Allcroft. She won World Rugby Player of the Year, so why can't she win the Women's Rugby Show Award as well? She's been sensational for Gloucester Hartpury. She's something we've watched quite a lot, being kind of local to Gloucester Hartpury. We've seen them a little bit more than others this year. Seen her playing for England. She captained England, obviously, winning World Rugby Player of the Year. Got engaged as well this week, so congratulations to her and her new fiance. Now she's won this, so congratulations, Zoe. You are the Women's Rugby Show Viewers Player of the Year. But my Player of the Year also got plenty of nominations from our viewers, but she's someone who's made a massive impact in her country and kind of what's going on in her country. She's someone who's led that through who she is as a player and who she is as a person. She's shone in the 7s, she's shone in the 15s for Wales, shone in the 15s for Bristol Bears. She scores tries for fun. So kind of my Player of the Year is Jazz Joyce from Bristol Bears, from Wales, from GB7. She was electric out in Tokyo. She's kind of helped push for Wales to have these new contracts, so she'll be playing international rugby for Wales and kind of being able to live off being an international rugby player for Wales. And she's just been electric for Bristol Bears in the Premier 15s and kind of helped keep them up there at the top of the Premier 15s table as well. So Jazz Joyce, congratulations. You are my Women's Player of the Year from the Women's Rugby Show for 2021. So congratulations to all those people who've won our awards for this year. Obviously it doesn't mean a massive point, but it's important to kind of highlight what's going on, who's impressed this year. So congratulations to Maud, Simi, Zoe Allcroft and Jazz Joyce as well, and also the Red Roses for kind of helping with those moments of the year. As like I said in the introduction, it's been a brilliant year. I hope 2022 is also a massive year for World Rugby. It's a great year, and hopefully we can celebrate that this time next year. So in the meantime, before we see you again in the new year at a Premier 15s ground, have a great New Year's Eve, have a great New Year's Day, hopefully celebrating with the family, and we'll see you at Premier 15s ground very soon. Cheers, goodbye.
Hi, my name is Michaela Blyde. I'm part of the Black Ferns Sevens, and you have been watching the Women's Rugby Show.